Welcome back to another class on the treasures of Mishnayot. We are in Mishnayot of Berachot, Perek Vav, Mishnah Aleph. This will be part 2 of the Shi'ur. The Mishnah begins, Keitzad mevarachin ala pirot lefnei achilatan. How does one bless on the fruits before you eat them? Ala pirot ha'ilan omer bore pri ha'etz. On the fruits of the tree, you're going to say bore pri ha'etz, the one who creates the fruit of the tree. Kolomar, meaning to say, Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Bore Pri Ha'etz. You're going to say that whole text. These 6 words of Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, these 6 words are always going to be instituted in the beginning of the blessing, whether it's going to be for fruits, grapes, bread, or vegetables. They are always there. That is the set text. So continues the Kat and he says, and so too by the other berachot, which are going to be stated later on, you're also going to have to go ahead and say the blessing of Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam. That blessing always has to be there. Since the beginning of the bracha, it joins to every other kind of food, the Tana did not mention the beginning of the bracha, but rather only the end of the bracha. Because it is different for every single kind. Comes the Kahati, and the Kahati tells us like this. If you look into the Mishnah, if you look onto the top of the Mishnah, he says, Ketzad mevarachin ala pirot. How does one bless on the fruits? So he says, Al pirot ha'ilan omer bore pri ha'etz. On the fruits of the tree, you're going to say bore pri ha'etz. 1 second. But where is the blessing of Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam? Why doesn't he have that text also in the Mishnah? So he explains, since that beginning blessing is for every single bracha, it's only the end blessing which changes with its kind. That's what the Kahati did not actually write it down, and he only told us the end berachot. For the fruits, we'll see is Borei Praise, then we'll see for the wine is Borei Pragefen, and so on and so forth. So one more time, Ketzad mevarachin ala pirot. How does one bless on the fruits? Al pirot ha'ilan omer Borei Praise. On the fruits of the tree, you're going to say Borei Pri Ha'etz. Chutz min hayayin hanaseh me'anavim. Except wine which is done from grapes. Shalayayin omer Borei Pri Hagefen. On the wine you're going to say Borei Pri Hagefen. If you have wine which is made out of grapes, you would have thought to say maybe since, as the Kahati is going to explain now, since wine comes from the grapes, therefore I would have thought to say you should say the blessing of Borei Pri Ha'etz. Comes the Mishnah and teaches you, no, you're going to say Borei Pri Hagefen. Chutz min hayayin, except wine, sha'al hayayin omer Borei Pri Hagefen. On the wine you're going to say the blessing of Borei Pri Hagefen. Ve'af al pi she'amru she'yotzeh min ha'anavim hu bichlal pri. Even though we said that anything which comes out of grapes is considered to be from part of the fruit. Ve'anavim harei birkatam Borei Pri Ha'etz. And grapes, their blessing is Borei Pri Ha'etz. If that is the case, why am I blessing Borei Pri Hagefen? Nevertheless, he says, Mikol Makom, nevertheless, Hayayin shehu so'edet alev umasmecho. Since the wine it satiates a person's heart and it makes him happy. Now, if we look over here very carefully, if you think of the idea, what does it mean satiate a person's heart? How can wine satiate a person's heart? So it's very simple. You feel complete when a person, again, I'm Rabotai, I don't drink alcohol, right? Only for Shabbat, the Kiddush, 4 Arba Kesot and Pesach, Havdalah, that's it, right? Rabotai, I don't drink these things, so I actually had to understand this whole thing myself. How does wine satiate a person? You could tell me food satiates a person. So the same way like we understand food satiates a person, that is exactly the same way wine satiates a person and makes him happy, meaning satiates his heart. What happens? You feel complete, satisfied, relaxed, which is true because when a person does drink wine, it actually relaxes him. You feel like no worries, nothing. So it actually does actually satiate you, but in a different sense. So I wrote over here what food does to the stomach, wine does to the heart. A person's emotion. We're dealing over here with a person's emotion. When a person drinks, how does it really satiate a person? Not that you're full, but it relaxes a person. That's another way to understand what does it mean that it satiates a person's heart. And that's what the Kazi says. Wine is able to satiate a person's heart and it is able to make you happy. When is a person happy? When a person has no worries, when he's relaxed, and so on and so forth. That's what he tells you over here. Even though the blessing for the wine should have been Borei Pri Ha'etz, nevertheless we're going to give it Borei Pri HaGefen. He says, like we explained, because the wine satiates the heart and it makes a person happy. Kavulu Chachamim, the Chachamim went and they established for it, mitoch chashivuto, from the fact that it was so important, bracha b'fnei atzmo. They instituted a bracha by itself when it came for wine. So bottom line is like this. In general, if you're eating grapes, you're saying the bracha of Borei Pri Ha'etz. When it comes to wine, since wine is able to do something grapes are not able to do, they give it more importance. Once wine has importance because it's able to satiate the heart and make you happy, it's able to relax you, it's able to do something other fruits are not able to do. So therefore the Chachamim came and they established for it a bracha by itself, which is Borei Pri HaGefen. That's why for wine we bless the bracha of Borei Pri HaGefen. Excuse me. Now we're continuing to the next piece. Ve'al pirot ha'aretz. Okay, I wrote over here vegetables, but over here it says on the fruits of the land, which are the vegetables. But we'll see. There's also other types of. There's also another way we can bless on the vegetables, as we'll see. B'lineder. Ve'al pirot ha'aretz, and on the fruits of the land, which are basically the vegetables. Ve'al pirot ha'aretz, and on the fruits of the land. Kigon, for example, kitniot, legumes, kishuim, squash, avtichim, watermelons, v'chedume, anything which grows from the ground. Omer, you're going to say Borei Pri Ha'adama. You're going to say the blessing of Borei Pri Ha'adama. Now the Kahati is going to go ahead and he's going to try to tell you that the Mishnah gave you two different languages, two different expressions. One expression he uses from the biblical, from the Torah, and one expression it's using from the Mishnah. Let me read it for you. Yesh me'irim, there are those that comment, Sha'berachot nitikanu beloshon hamikra. These berachot that we have, Borei Pri Ha'etz, Borei Pri Adama, we're going after the language of the mikra, meaning after the verses in Tanakh. Ve'ilu beloshon Mishnah nikrim, but however, in the language of the Mishnah, they're called Perot Ha'ilan, Perot Ha'aretz. Pay close attention. It doesn't say, if you start looking into the Mishnah on the top, how does it say? Al Perot Ha'ilan. That is the language of the Mishnah. That's how they speak. But then he says, Omer Borei Pri Ha'etz. Why are you blessing Borei Pri Ha'etz, Borei Pri Hadama? Because that is biblical language. Those things, those verses come. There's ways that you can learn that back and forth, which I don't want to do it now. But they are stemmed from the Tanakh. Continues the Kahat and he says, Umikan shinu halashon b'mishnatenu. That's why, and over here, they went ahead and they changed the expression in the Mishnah. Al pirot ha'ilan, on the fruits of the tree, hu omer borei pri ha'etz. Ve'al pirot ha'aretz, hu omer borei pri ha'adama. You see what happened? On the fruits of the tree, which is the expression that the Mishnah uses, that's what it says, pirot ha'ilan, pirot ha'aretz. But when it comes to blessing the blessing, it says Borei Pri Ha'etz, Borei Pri Ha'adama. It's using the biblical from the Tanakh expression. He brings us down the name of the Tosefet Anshe Shem. Okay. Not Tosefet, Tosfot Anshe Shem. Okay. Now, continues the mission and it says Chutz Min Hapat. Okay, so we said on top, Ve'al pirot ha'aretz, when it comes to the fruits of the ground, meaning vegetables, Omer Borei Pri Adama, you're going to bless the blessing of Borei Pri Adama. Right? So he says over here, I have two times over here, Borei Pri Adama. Sure, Borei Pri. Okay, I'll write it, just give me 1 second. Borei Pri Adama, Chutz Mina Pat, except pot. What is pot? Pot is lechem, bread. Except for bread, you're going to say Hamotzi Lechem min ha'aretz. That is the blessing you're going to say for bread. Even though bread is wheat, which comes from the ground, you would have thought to say, you have to say borei pri adama. Nevertheless, comes the Mishnah and tells you on bread, we'll see why, you're going to say the blessing of hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz. So that's what he says over here. Chus bin apat, except for bread, you're going to say the bracha of hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz. Why? So first he tells you, let's read what he says. She'al apad hu omer hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz. On the bread, you're going to say hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz, ki loshon hamikra, like the language of Tanakh. Over here he tells you where we find this language. In Tehillim, in Kufdalid, in Perek Kufdal, Pasuk Yudal, which says over there, Lehotzi lechem min ha'aretz. That's what it says in Tehillim. To take out the bread from the ground. That's what the blessing we say over there is hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz. Again, we're going after the biblical terminology. Our berachot follow the biblical terminology. Now he's going to explain to us why, if wheat comes from the ground, why is it different than squash and watermelons and legumes and everything else? Why do you have to tell me that I have to say hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz? And why am I not blessing on bread, borei pri ha'adama? So he says over here, sheho'il ve'lechem hu ikar mizonot adam. Since bread, that is the main food of a person, kavulo mitoch hashivoto bracha la'atzmo. They went ahead and they established, because of the importance that bread has, since it is the main food of a person, they gave a bracha to itself. So it comes out of it like this. Just like you can understand by wine, the reason why we went ahead and we said borei pri gefen is because wine is important. It's able to make a person happy and it's able to make satiate a person's heart. Since wine is important, we gave the bracha of borei pri gefen. So too with bread. Since bread is the main food of a person, they went ahead and now they made it important. So now we're going to have to give a blessing unto itself. That's what we say hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz, and we don't say borei pri ha'adama. So I'll put it to you like this, Rabotai, to remember in short, other fruits of the tree or fruits of the vegetable, they all have the same status, meaning you'll say borei pri ha'etz, borei pri ha'adama. But when you're dealing with wine which comes from grape, compared to the regular fruits from the tree, it gets an upgrade. Let's call it like that. Wine gets upgraded in the quality. The wine is better, meaning it's able to satiate a person's heart and it's able to make a person happy. That's why, since we upgrade it because of its functions, we're going to give its own blessing of borei pri gefen. So too with bread, same concept. In comparison to vegetables, vegetables are going to keep with borei pri adama. But why with bread? We're going to upgrade it because of its function, which that is the main food of a person. Now it becomes important. So therefore the Chachamim went, since we upgrade the bread because of the function, so now we're also going to upgrade the blessing, which is going to be hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz. Okay. Continues the Kahati and he says, Ken kavu chachamim bracha miyuchedet letavshilei dagan. So too the Chachamim went and they instituted a designated blessing for grain-based dishes. Kegon, itriot. If a person is eating, right, you make noodles, you're eating baked ziti, pasta, something like that, you're going to go ahead and you're going to bless the blessing of borei minei mizonot. Pitutim, what about, you also have over there toasted pasta. Again, if you ever saw Israeli couscous, that's what it is. Koftot, v'chodome, dumplings, and anything similar. Again, anything which is made from wheat products. V'chen lema'afe betzik. And so if you're going to go ahead and you're going to bake dough, kigon, tofenayim, v'ugot, baked pastries and cake, v'nusach bracha borei minei mizonot. Also over here, by these, basically by noodles, by dumplings, by couscous, by baked pastries, by by the cake, all these things, you would have thought, one second, where does it come from? It comes from wheat products. Where does the wheat product come from? From the ground. So maybe I should bless borei pri adama. He says, no, over there also we're going to go ahead and we're going to upgrade the bracha and we're going to move it to borei minei mizonot, which I did not write down over here. Okay, but that is the bracha. You know something? Let me write it down. Okay, so basically this is baked pastries, pasta, couscous, all these things, right? Anything which is made from the 5 grains, you're going to end up saying borei minei mizonot. Okay, again, we did this exactly the same thing with this. Okay. That's what the Kati said. That's what the Chacham said, that they went and they instituted a designated blessing, a special blessing for pasta, dumplings, couscous, baked pastries, cake. They gave it its own blessing of borei minei mizonot. Okay. V'ala yirakot. Now he's moving on actually to vegetables. Okay, before we said on the fruits of the ground, but now he's also going back on the vegetables. On the vegetables, a person is going to bless. For example, it says kigon kruv, cabbage, tzunon, radish, chasa, lettuce, batal, onion, tared, spinach, v'chadumen, anything similar to them. Omer borei peri ha'adama. You're going to say the blessing of borei peri ha'adama. Why? Shayirakot bichlal perot ha'aretz. Because vegetables, they're included in the rule of the fruits of the land. That's what you're going to go ahead and you're going to bless borei peri ha'adama. Rabbi Yehuda is going to say, no, you're not allowed to bless on cabbage, on radish, on lettuce, on onion, on spinach, and anything similar to that. You're not going to bless the blessing of borei peri adama, but rather what are you going to bless? You're going to bless borei minei deshaim. Rabbi Yehuda holds differently. Why? On the fruits of the land, you can say borei peri adama. And the vegetables, you're going to say borei minei deshaim, which means what, Rabotai? The one who creates all types of herbs, and this meaning green stuff, and this is it: cabbage, lettuce, radish, onion, spinach. All these things are different types of herbs. That's why he says, Rabbi Yehuda held, you have to say exactly the blessing for what it is called, the thing that you are eating.